Hello, everyone. This is Calvin Russell, CEO and founder of 850 Club Credit Consultation. Hope everyone's doing well today. Today, we're going to talk about the new update as far as the buy now, pay later being added to your credit reports. Listen, guys, this is where you got to get this information so you're not surprised. You'll be prepared. Let's go straight into it. So, number one, let's actually break it down per bureau because this is one of the first times that the bureaus, well, actually, I guess this would be more like the second time. But this is more so the first time that they're doing the same thing, but they're doing it differently. Usually the credit bureaus, they all have the same rules typically, right? And then, of course, Experian kind of changed the game when they came out with Experian Boost. You kind of thought TransUnion was going to come out with something, which, by the way, TransUnion did partner with one company to kind of do that, which, by the way, if you're an 850 Club member or an 850 Club Elite member, you already know what company that is. And Equifax never really came out with anything. They just kind of just let it be. And then other third-party companies started coming out, of course. Either way, this is the first time that they're doing the same thing, but they're doing it slightly different, okay? For those of you who don't know, buy now, pay later is, you guys have probably seen it with Affirm or Klarna. It's so many different, ones that are out there. But in short, this is where you would buy something online typically, and then when you buy it online, it gives you essentially about 4 payments, to essentially break it down into 4 payments. That way you can just get what you want now, and then you just pay it later. Now, we're going to talk about the positives and the negatives, but just keep it positive for now. This is you doing the buy now, pay later, but you're also paying it on time. Okay, we're going to talk about how the negative also plays a role, which actually brought us to this particular situation anyway. And but let's break it down. So with TransUnion, if you do a buy now, pay later, they will only look at, well, for one, they're going to report it as an installment loan. Okay, so just like, a personal loan, mortgage loan, auto loan, student loan, there is a start time and there's a finish time. Okay, so if you pay it off early, then it should not affect your credit score. However, the loan, the actual age of the loan itself will not factor into your credit score. Okay, that's huge because your average age of credit, for those who don't know, does play a role in your actual score. It's either 10 to 15% of what makes your score. And the fact that for those of you who are trying to get to 850 or a certain score in general, if you constantly do these, because remember, every time you buy something online and you constantly do the buy now, pay later, let's say, for example, you buy 5 items and each of them are from different websites and each of them are with buy now, pay later options. Those are now going to show up as 5 new accounts on your credit report. Now, I don't know how often you do it, but all of them will show up on your credit report. Okay, so that's going to play a major role in the age of your credit report. But TransUnion says we're not going to factor that into your credit score, so you will be fine there. So why is it going to be on your credit report anyway? For payment history. That way, if you're late, your score is going to drop. If you pay on time, on average, they've been beta testing this. On average, people have been seeing a 13-point increase. Now, I'm not telling you to go get it. Okay, I'm not telling you to go do a buy now, pay later option just to get 13 points because number one, there's no guarantee that you're going to get 13 points. That's the average. Number two, you have no idea what else could happen in those 4 months, and you're hoping for a 13-point increase. This doesn't make any sense. So just do what you've normally been doing. But now you know how that's going to affect your scores. It's not going to be the loan time frame, that the actual account age that's going to affect your score. With TransUnion, it's going to be the payment history. Okay, now to speed this up, Experian is going to do the exact same thing. Okay, they're not going to factor the age of the loan into your FICO score calculation, as well as the Vantage 3.0 calculation. Sidebar: Vantage 4.0, they never really came out with it, but let's go back. Either way, they've had talks with FICO as well as Vantage score, and it will not factor into the average age of account history. Okay, so that's good news. And of course, just like TransUnion, Experian will only report the payment history and everything like that. Okay, so that's the good news. Here's the bad news. Equifax says that's not how we're going to do it. Okay. This is where things get kind of crazy. And this is what California is really trying to fight for. Okay. California is more so trying to get government regulations on the credit bureaus because let's be honest, it's more of a Microsoft type of deal, right? Where, Microsoft gets so big and they say, hey, this is how things are going to be. Now, some of that is good and then some of that is bad, but you got to pay attention to what matters to the consumers. And that's what California is saying. You got to put laws on these credit bureaus. Otherwise, they're going to do stuff like this. And it may not be a big deal now, but this could be a big deal later. But what is Equifax doing? Equifax is doing two things that's different. Number one, they're deciding from which company and how long a person has to pay certain things off. If they're going to have it as a revolving account, which is like a credit card, which is actually a positive thing, okay? Because we know that revolving accounts, if you're constantly using it, that what they're trying to say is, hey, just let the person have like a store credit card with all of your merchants. And then whoever you guys have buy now, pay later with, it shows up like a credit card payment, even though they're going to different sites. That way, of course, kind of changes how the companies report in general. And so the companies don't want to do all of that. So Equifax is just saying, well, we'll just decide which companies show up as revolving and which ones show up as installment loans. And they haven't given us that list. And they don't have to. That's what makes things more difficult. That's number one. Number two, they will factor the average age of accounts, the average age of that particular account into your credit score. What does that mean for you? That means, I don't know how often you might do buy now, pay later. You may have never done it. You may have done it once. And some people, they like, that's how I get all my stuff, right? But if you're like that person that is, no matter how many times you do it, but when you do it, let's say, for example, using that 5 times, right? So let's say you do it 5 times throughout the year. One is with company 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 different companies, 5 different payment dates, 5 different buy now, pay later, due dates, obviously, because you got them at different times. Now, all of those will show up on your credit report. You pay them on time. That's going to eventually reduce your average age of credit history. So what does that mean? So that means, let's say, for example, all of your accounts are about 6 years old, but then you start getting these buy now, pay later accounts. Equifax says we're going to count that against your account history. And then, guys, what is that going to do? That's going to reduce your average age of accounts, which is going to reduce your credit score. And you know what sucks? There's no way out of it. Because just by getting the buy now, pay later, option in general is going to have to be reported to all 3 credit bureaus. Now, they haven't put everything in place just yet, but this is the next phase is deciding, okay, how are we going to do this? TransUnion was the first one to say, hey, we're going to do it. And then everyone else followed suit. But Equifax wants to be different now, so we'll see how this all pans out. But if you do it, now this may change how often you do it. And now you're going to most definitely see, like sometimes like a credit score is a little bit different than this particular credit score. And that's usually because an account is reported to a certain credit bureau and it's not reported to the other ones, or a collection is reported to a certain credit bureau, or history is only reported to one bureau, right? Those are like one-offs. But in this particular situation, it's unfair that you're not doing anything wrong. But Equifax says, hey, that's just how we factor it in. And Equifax says, if you're going to get it, then don't get it that often. I don't think that that's fair. That's the most recent update, guys. If you like this video, like it. If you want to share it, share it. And as always, be sure to subscribe as we have nothing but great content on the way. Thank you all so much. Have a great day.